Hi everyone, this is Gail Minogue again, and I'm speaking about my favorite subject, which is numbers and numerology. And today I wanted to do a little bit more clarification on location numbers and finding the best places for you to live and leaving the places that don't work for you anymore. This is extremely important. I made a YouTube video a couple of years ago. It's been very, very well received about house numbers and finding the right house number that works for you, and also your timing on that move. So this time I want to speak a little bit more about that and answer some questions that you have sent me regarding moving. Remember, every house number has a personality. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Every house reduces. So if your house number is 8 to 6, you add those numbers together and you will get the number 7. It reduces to 7. 16, 7. 8, 2 is 10. 16 with 8, 2, 6. And it adds to 16, and that reduces to the number 7. And a certain qualities go with that house. So when you move into that house, you're going to experience them. There's no doubt about it. A 7 house is different than a 1 house. A 7 house is different than a 9 house. You should know that. And you should know what is your personality like and what is the style of living you want. Okay? 7 houses are more quiet. They're more retreats. They're not a big social house. They're nice and pleasant and all that stuff. But if you like to have people come over and visit a lot and all that, that is not a 7 house. It's a retreat house. It's a house of peace, quiet, etc. Now, if you are missing any number in your birth name, like a 7, if you're missing a 7, and that would be the letters G, which is a 7, and P, which is a 7, and Y, which is a 7. If you don't have GPY in your name, you don't have a 7. And so what that means is when you walk into that house, karma that you have in your name is activated, and you have to experience in that house issues around the number 7, which is faith over fear. So you get tested. How strong is your faith? You could test it, and that could come in any ways: health, money, what have you. Okay, it could also be issues about just developing the mind more, the intellect, all of that. But every house has issues. And if you don't have a missing number, that house is probably fine, but it has its own personality. I don't have any missing numbers in my name, but there's houses I'm going to avoid because I don't want a 4. I don't want to work my you-know-what off there. And the 4 always requires work, order, discipline, structure, all that kind of stuff. And do I want that? No. It doesn't mean I want to be disorderly or unstructured, but I don't want to be made to do that. I don't want to have to work all the time, and I don't want a house that I'm going to have to work on all the time. Now, a person who loves the number 4 loves that house. So every house has certain qualities. And it's like a personality. It's like, here's my personality when you move in a house. Do you like me or not? I know what you look like. When I saw the realtor or when someone showed me this house, it looked lovely and wonderful. However, you don't know me until you move in. It's just like you don't know a person until you really entertain time with that person. They look terrific. They could be rotten, but you don't know that till you go there and be with them more often. The same with a house. You don't know it. It just looks terrific. So you always want to know, what numbers am I missing in my name before I move in there? Does this place interfere with that? Is it going to put me in a precarious position? Do I really want, am I willing to have that experience? Now, the other thing to remember is there are karmic debt numbers. And karmic debt numbers are really the number 13, 14, 16, and 19. And these are debts from prior lives that must be paid in this life. Okay? Each one has a different meaning. Now, if I move into a house that's 8 to 6, it will reduce to the number 16, which is a karmic debt. But the house itself is not the number 16. It's 8 to 6. So that's different. So you don't want to mistake a karmic debt number by reducing it to that it needs to be a pure 16 or a pure 14. So I move into a house that, say, is 16. That is a pure karmic debt house. Now, Do I activate a karmic debt there? I would avoid that house, even if I'm not missing the letter Y, G, or P in my name. I will always avoid a karmic debt house or apartment number 13, 14, 16, 19. And we're only looking at the birth name. We don't pay attention to married names. We don't pay attention to christening names, baptismal names, nicknames. No, only the first registered name at birth counts. Now, remember, I always say you can choose any other name you want once you get here. You don't need to call yourself your birth name. A lot of people don't like them, but you don't lose it. So say I don't like my birth name, so I changed my name to Brenda Snow, okay? Now I'm Brenda. No, I never lost Gail. I never lost Gail Minogue. I never lost it. It's underneath. It's like the platform for my life. It's the basement of my house. So you always have to go back to original birth name, never a married name, okay? You always create a name before you are born. So it has much more strength. It's not even created here. Anything created here, you leave it here, right? You leave your name that you created here too. But you have what I call your forever sound, and your birth name is literally masking your forever sound. And that gets into a whole nother issue about when a soul is struck in the heavens, there's a phonem, there's a sound created for that soul. So you know your sound, you know your name in this lifetime. However, do not mistake these houses that you're moving to or apartments that you're moving into for something that has to do with the name you're calling yourself now. It has nothing to do with it. It's always the birth name, not a married name, nickname, or stage name. We don't use them. You use them on the stage. The other thing too is that a lot of people don't know what to do with apartment numbers when they have letters. So say it's 23G. All right, 23G. Well, G is the number 7. So it's 23-7. You have to count the letter as a number, all right? Remember that. Always count the letter as a number. And some of these people have the the number half. I once lived in a place in LA that had a half. So it was like 1064 and a half. What do you do with that? Well, you add those numbers, okay? 1 and 2. You have to add them together if you're using that as your address of that house. Now, you cannot change a house. This is, unless you go to the county and you get the address changed, which is a big, big deal, and they probably will tell you no, they won't. They won't. You can't. The legal number for that house is whatever it is. Now, if it was changed by the county to something else, well, then it's legal. But if it's not, you can't go ahead and just, do that. And I hear this other thing all the time about in feng shui, well, we put an 8 behind the door. What is that? That's nuts, okay? You be changing the fate of your house by putting an 8 behind your door? No. If you don't have an 8 in your name, you still have a missing 8. You can try to make your home more prosperous and learn about a missing 8 and what you need to do to correct it. That is more beneficial than putting an 8 behind your door and some of these other enhancements that are really foolish and a waste of money. But if it makes you feel better, do it. But it's not going to influence your financial situation if you're missing a number 8 or you have a house that is not in a position. Because in feng shui, the house, once you put a roof on the house, that's the date of that house, is the date you put that house on. So that's when you want to find out. It can get very elaborate, but by just putting a number behind your door is just no. And the other thing too that people need to be aware of are license plates. I'll get into that in another video. But license plates are another thing that is really impressive and important. People don't even think anything of it. They go to the DMV and they get a license plate number and they put it on their car and they have no idea what it means. But a license plate is always how you want to be seen by the world. Even if it's not true, this is how you want to be seen. So that's another issue. Now, all of this is in my book, Divine Design, How You Created the Life You Are Living. If you need any help with the location, which I think is extremely important, it is better to talk to me before you move than say, I just closed on a house Tell me about it. It's too late. What is that? You already did it. Now I can tell you what it can be like for you, or what to expect there and how it's going to affect your chart. All right. The other thing, if you're married, you need to take a look at your spouse or a partner, if they're buying a house together, however, and they're living there, how it's going to affect them. That's another issue. So we have to look at both. So anyway, this just gives you a little more information on the importance of choosing a location to live. I haven't even gotten into the timing. I'm just doing the number on the house. The timing is good too, because if you're moving in a 9-year, which is the winter of your cycle, who plants in a winter? Farmer doesn't, and you shouldn't either. You can terminate and end things in your 9-year, but you don't start new endeavors. So we'll get into that in another video. But in the meantime, pick and choose carefully. Get a hold of me before you move. I have a special location session on my website, gailminogue.com. Always thank you. And if you have more information needs, tune in to my Zoom classes that I hold about every 6 weeks, and you will learn even more. And thank you always for listening. Bye-bye.